Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees no new major releases set to come out, which just leaves Spider-Man No Way Home at the top once again for, I believe now, its sixth #1 placing at the domestic box office. I know, River, it's getting crazy, it's getting ridiculous now. This will probably be the last weekend that this will be the case, as films like Jackass Forever are set to come out next week as we begin the month of February, and there are other major releases set to come out during that month as well. And of course, leading up to probably what's going to be the next real major release coming at the very beginning of March, which will be the release, of course, of Robert Pattinson's The Batman, which I know a lot of people are excited for. I have very temperate expectations for it based on the trailers, but of course, willing to give that a shot since trailers are not everything. Before going, though, any further into this bit of information, please make sure you smash that like button, line up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So yeah, my voice is a little bit on the downward side today, as of course, baby Thor continues to bring down the everyday colds that babies tend to bring, but I'm doing okay. So Spider-Man No Way Home, as is expected, no surprise here, to bring $11 million now in its, I think, 7th week of release, which is just kind of crazy when you just think about, again, the pandemic narrative that was being shoved down so many people's throats. This film was able to just surpass all of them, now almost close to $1.7 billion worldwide. Expected to make another $11 million, bringing its total domestic gross to $736 million, making it one of the highest grossing films set in the MCU of all time. Not just of the pandemic era, but literally of all time, even when you adjust those MCU numbers for inflation. So, again, the people who are trying to say, oh, it's unfair for you to be comparing these films that are doing poorly to films that came out prior to the COVID pandemic. Okay, well then, how do you respond to this then, okay? I think it's very important to kind of point out that maybe it is a bit of the fact that this is a film that, hey, gave people what they wanted, made people excited, built up the hype, and was actually able to deliver on it. And I think a big part of that, of course, was Sony being the primary producer of the film, being the sole distributor of the film, and being able to provide those bit of member berries that, done right, were able to bring a lot of people out to the theater and to bring people back multiple times. Again, we could probably talk about other factors as well, but I'm pretty sure that those are the main and primary factors as to how and why this film was so successful. It definitely was not the inclusion of Doctor Strange or other MCU characters, as some people maybe try to put into their heads. There's still people who come into these videos whenever we talk about Spider-Man No Way Home and try to push the whole, oh, it's Disney, it's, think Disney, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, okay, Sony still put up 75% of the money, still is the sole distributor of the film. Those are facts, and you can't take away those facts. So anyway, Spider-Man No Way Home, $11 million domestically, very, very strong. Continued hold over from the last weekend. Scream expected to also have a pretty strong hold of a 39% drop, making another $7.5 million. Again, this film broke even last weekend, so this film is expected to continue to make profits. How much, as far as mass profits, is it expected to make? Not nearly as much as some of the other films that we've seen this year. However, definitely enough to where, again, Paramount might see the film franchise as being worth having purchased the company that owned the product, right? But we'll have to, of course, wait and see if it's able to really make up that much money as far as how much it's spent, and that, of course, will be kind of a long game mentality and a long game play for that. Sing 2 is the film that also kind of just doesn't die. $4.6 million is that film expected to make yet again. 20% drop, so a very strong hold. It and Spider-Man have really had very strong holds, very similar to each other, with, of course, Spider-Man having just a much larger, wider audience base. But Sing 2 showing that it has been able to bring out the families, it has been able to bring out the kids, and it goes to show you that, guess what? Kids and families are also willing to go out to see movies as well. And they are willing to go out to see that, to see these types of movies in droves, to the point of helping these films reach profitability. And again, this is something that some people just for some reason don't want to admit when it comes to box office failures. Films that lost money, films like Encanto, for instance, which even though it has had, it had rather some strong holds before it went on to be free on Disney Plus, that again, it was not a film that people were going out of their way to go and see. And also, of course, you bring into the equation the biggest factor of all, which is how much money you spend on a film. And hopefully Hollywood, especially Disney, realizes that you can't just throw $100+ million at a project and expect that film to be successful. You need to actually produce a really good film to boot and be able to drive people to go and see it. Now, I'm not saying that Encanto is not a good film. I have not seen the film yet. There are people that I trust who are part of the Asgardian community who say that it's actually not bad of a movie, that it's actually a lot of fun. I've heard other people say it's not that good. The point is, though, is it was not able to drive enough people to go see it, and that is made very clear when you actually look at the numbers compared to how much they actually spent on the film. Redeeming Love in its second weekend expected to make $1.6 million, a 55% drop. Again, we'll see exactly what that means for its box office in the long run, as we're still waiting on a production budget for that film. Kingsman still sticking around, but as I said, it had such a weak opening that all of these strongholds really don't mean much of anything for it. 355 continues to stick around too, and is again just paltry. 12.9 million. That's a pretty depressing number for a movie that had a major wide release, and I'm sure that some people were expecting to be a big success, and obviously that is just not the case here. West Side Story continues to be $100 million in losses. Ghostbusters Afterlife continues to add to its box office success, and yes, box office success is indeed a fact when it comes to Ghostbusters Afterlife, unlike Ghostbusters 2016, which, even if you want to keep on bringing up that film in the comment section, was still a financial failure, was still a financial loss, whereas Afterlife was not. And again, those are just the facts. Looking a little bit more into Spider-Man No Way Home, comparing it to other films, even pre-pandemic films. Remember, I got yelled at for comparing any film that was released during the pandemic to pre-pandemic films. And yet, let's see where this movie stands right now. $722 million domestically means, guess what? It made more than Avengers Infinity War. It also made more than Black Panther. Black Panther being one of the highest grossing domestic releases in the MCU history. So, as I said, can't compare these things to pre-pandemic films. Well, this one's breaking the narrative. International box office too, $970 million. Guess what? Destroyed Black Panther's international numbers there. Again, pre-pandemic versus pandemic. What say you? $1.6 billion to Black Panther's $1.3 billion. Well, these are all numbers adjusted for inflation. Again, what say you? The fact that it's even within the ballpark of the Avengers Infinity War's $2 billion. Again, what say you? And of course, we've got the day-to-day comparisons, and it is just incredible to see how strong this film is in comparison to other films. Again, where Infinity War was in its release, where Black Panther was in its release. And of course, it is just kind of also amazing that Endgame, though, of course, being the clear winner here, as that film was indeed a complete and giant juggernaut of a film. The fact that this is even in the same category in a lot of different ways is very, very impressive, especially in the midst of a pandemic, right? As everyone loves to kind of always try to use as an excuse. When if you were to compare this to films that were released during the pandemic, films like the most successful of the bunch, actually, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong one there. Shang-Chi, that was the most successful of the MCU films. Again, pandemic, and yet what was the results? Oh, $224 million versus $722 million. $193 million internationally versus Spider-Man's $970. $417.9 million total for Shang-Chi versus $1.6 billion. So whether you compare this film to pre-pandemic films, post-pandemic films, whatever it is that you want to say, narrative broken. Anyway, what else thoughts about this? Again, nothing major coming out this weekend. It is still interesting to see just how much money Spider-Man No Way Home will make by the end of its run, as I'm sure the pups are also very excited to hear this bit of news. And again, what do you think the end cap is going to be for Spider-Man No Way Home? Do you think it's just going to cap out right around $1.75 billion? Do you think it's going to get closer to 1.8? Do you think there's a little bit more juice in the tank there? And do you think there's a possibility of Sony trying to get this film released in China? Again, there's really no need for them to do that, and I really hope they don't. Again, $1.75 billion is incredibly impressive, regardless of the pandemic or not. And people can try and say, well, if it had released in China, or if it had released in China, it would have definitely made this much money. And again, there's no real guarantee there. But what we can say is, by not releasing in China, millions of dollars is not going to the CCP, meaning millions of dollars is not going to fund that human rights violating government that needs to be stood up to and needs to be torn down. Anyway, what are your thoughts about this? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button. I know, River. Yes, indeed. Smash that like button. Light that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And again, shout out to Jaimir Ari Hymason and to Jonathan, newest members on Patreon. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my January Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members. Starting first off with Locals, shout out to Kara Tharp, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson, Biffer DeHobbit, and Robert Barnes. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Locals platform. Also a shout out to my Subscribe Star people, UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson once again, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the Subscribe Star platform. And lastly, to my Patreon supporters, my 30 Patreon supporters over there, animation commentator Brandon, let's go Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Hannibal Grimm, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle, 79, Lance, Laura, The Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Allen, Stan Andrian, Miss Martin Muses, Theodore Benden, and Tina Bojan, and of course, Tina B., the Empress of the Universe. Thank you all so very much for your love and for your support. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and at the end of every video, please make sure that you support me over on a Patreon Subscribe Star or on Locals. Also, you get a ton of other goodies if you support at the Army of Asgard level and above. Starting at the Army of Asgard level, you get access to various giveaways that I do during the month, including various 4K titles. Many of them 4K Steelbook titles, and so if you want access to that, check out the Army of Asgard level on those platforms specifically. You also get access, once you are a Keeper of the Bifrost level member, to that, plus a podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, where you actually get to ask us questions, and also, of course, get access to that and the library of previous podcast episodes. We're up to about 33 episodes now that we have been able to do. I think most of those episodes now at this point we've actually done it together, which has been a lot of fun. And of course, you can join at the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, Chosen of Valhalla live stream level, where you get access to not only all of those things, but also you get access to be featured on the channel once a month during the Chosen of Valhalla live stream with the other Chosen members, which is always a lot of fun. Also, during your first month, you get a free t-shirt sent anywhere in the world. You just let me know your size. Let me know the t-shirt that you want from the store over on Teespring or on TeePublic, whichever you prefer, and I will gladly send that out to you if you're at that level. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.